Thank you, everyone, for being here. It strikes me that we have slightly different recycling markets for newsprint, for paper, for glass, for compost, and for plastics. And I'd like to focus on plastics because I think we have a real failure happening in the plastics recycling market. In theory, this should be a pretty vibrant market because we are seeing immense public pressure on the plastics industry to clean up its act, particularly as regards the waste that ends up in the oceans and in our rivers. We are seeing, frankly, outright bans on certain single-use plastics, sending what you'd think would be a strong message to the industry to clean up its act. There's considerable reputational risk for these companies as the propagators of the material that ends up, around some turtle's neck in the sea somewhere. So you would think that the conditions would be about as good as they can be for a corporate response with respect to recycling plastic instead of just churning out new plastic. And in fact, the numbers tell a completely different story. If you look at single-use plastic, which is the stuff most likely to end up in the ocean, in a whale's belly, tangled around a coral reef, the industry, by my information, has managed to achieve a grand 2% recycling component for single-use plastics. 2%. I mean, that's probably the number you'd get by accident. Under all that pressure, the best they can do is 2%. So something needs to change if this is going to get serious. Everything tells me that the reason industry is still at 2%, despite all this pressure, is that the real decision driver is dollars. And it's cheaper to buy new nurdles of plastic and put out your single-use plastic items than it is to buy recycled plastic, and therefore the industry spurns recycled plastic despite all that public pressure because of the pressure of cost. So it seems to me that's a really simple gateway to a solution to the problem to get us above 2%. If you look at it at our blue bins, I have blue bins that we fill with recycling. The record that I think we have on actual recycling, when an American goes to their blue bin and takes the soda bottles and the plastic waste from their household and actually puts it in the blue bin, is that less than 10%, most likely 6 to 8% of that actually gets recycled. More than 90% of it doesn't actually get recycled. It's almost at the level of being a scam on the consumers who in good faith are putting their plastics in those blue bins and aren't being told that the industry isn't recycling that stuff. A lot of it's simply being packed up and put into the dump. A lot of it's simply being packed up and shipped overseas to be put into open air dumps and end up in the rivers and end up in the oceans and go on from there. The responsibility of the industry for getting above 2% in terms of recycled content for single-use plastics, and for doing better than having more than 90% of what we actually put into those blue recycling bins be recycled, ought to be a lot higher. They ought to be accountable for those, I would say, catastrophic failures verging on being a fraud on the public. So I'm hoping that we can work together not just to measure the disastrous state of plastics recycling, but to solve it. And I would really appreciate it if each of the witnesses would take a minute when this hearing is over and take this as a question for the record and give me your ideas and suggestions as to what needs to be done to solve this dilemma of total plastics recycling failure that we are stuck in. I think it's purely cost. And I think if you're not going to put any kind of a price on dumping the plastic, any kind of a price on any type of an equivalence for recycled plastic versus new plastic, we're just never, ever, ever going to solve this. And we can talk our way around this problem forever, but the dollars drive the decisions, in my view. And I'd like your response to that, if you don't mind putting it in writing so that I don't take up more time in the hearing. Appreciate it. Thank you.